Choosing the topic digital badges came by chance. I was researching for information on Daniel Hickey, the author of one of our articles. I discovered that he had a blog on digital badges. I had heard about digital badges but knew nothing about them. I wanted to explore this topic because I wanted to know what they were, if there was discussion on their type of motivation, and if they were a possible alternative for student assessment. Upon approval, I started to educate myself on this topic. The goal was to focus on digital badges and motivation and assessment. Looking at digital badges. What are digital badges? The first thing that I discovered was that digital badges were also referred to as open badges, or OB. Digital badges are web-enabled tokens of accomplishment. Much like traditional Scout badges, the badges themselves are visual representations of learner outcomes. They represent a mastery of knowledge as opposed to how well a student performed in a confined amount of time. Furthermore, OBs take the concept of digital badges one step further. They allow learners to verify their skills, interests, and achievements through credible organizations. An all-inclusive definition, a digital badge is a representation of an accomplishment, interest, or affiliation that is visual, available online, and contains metadata, including links that help explain the context, meaning, process, and result of an activity. In other words, digital badges are more than a tangible product to be displayed, but additionally offer depth of knowledge on the recipient's non-academic achievements, which have made them who they are. Assessments now. I work in a high school, so my experience comes from teaching grade 9 and grade 10 physical science. Assessment at this level are the traditional summative multiple choice, true or false, short and long answer questions. Summative assessment evaluates term learnings as well as ministry year-end learning. Formative assessments can occur daily, covering the prior day's work or the day's work. They give the teacher an indication of how the students have integrated the material. They are less formal and contribute fewer marks towards the student's year-end grade. Considerable anxiety and stress is associated with summative assessment and can influence student outcomes. In reality, assessment is a time that acquisition of knowledge stops and a time when expert guidance is withdrawn. We also know that tests not only open or close gates to other opportunities, they influence how we think about ourselves. Assessment is memory recall and gives no consideration to knowledge derived from social, cultural, and environmental experiences that influence students' knowledge and forms who they are in society. Sir Ken Robinson's TED Talk on changing education paradigms refers to education as antiquated and based on the Industrial Revolution's need for employers with an assembly line mentality. He calls on educators to rethink the current system and find new ways to educate and assess. Nascent. Finding research on digital badge motivation and assessment was difficult because it is nascent, just beginning, coming into existence. The following quote confirms my experience. A search of peer-reviewed educational journals revealed evidence of the lag in time from research and development to publication, which created a need to rely heavily on field notes and direct communications via emails and blog postings from founders, creators, and early adopters. Another observation of the nascent of digital badges is Google Trends, a website that tracks annual digital badge activity. Digital badge activity starts in 2010, meaning little time to effectively create and analyze data on digital badges. However, one research example is the Design Principles Documentation (DPD) project led by Dan Hickey, which looked at 30 digital badge projects and analyzed their ability to create and implement badges into their systems. Details can be found on their website. Do they work? Researchers claim that when embedded into a curriculum and content-rich environment, digital badging ecosystems validate the process of learning and specific skill development that might be missing from traditional learning assessments and evaluations. Overall, there is an agreement that building a badge system without examining our assumptions about assessment can lead to a misalignment between what we value and how these values become manifest in the badge system. In other words, we have to know what we value about the current assessment process before we can consider implementing a new digital badge system. Concerns. All the above issues are cause for concern, as they indicate a paucity of peer-reviewed literature and an abundance of anecdotal evidence provided by blogs and independent research enthusiasts. Attempts are being made to disseminate research publications quickly. One open-source online publication by Cheryl Grant is called "What Counts as Learning? Open Digital Badges for New Opportunities," and it is an example of timely dissemination of information to the population who are awaiting data that confirms the significance of this explosive topic. A final concern worth mentioning: the driving force is not motivation and assessment research, but rather technology-based companies. Name dropping. A struggle I had during my search was finding peer-reviewed articles. The ERIC search engine did not offer a lot. So, after hours of internet exploration, a pattern and repetition of names started to develop. Names that I now recognize and trust as influential. They include James Willis, Indiana University, Center for Research on Learning and Technology. He also frequently contributes as a digital badge blogger. Cheryl Grant, Director of Badge Research for Haystack. Dan Hickey, DPD Project Lead Investigator. Aaron Knight, Director of the Badge Alliance, and Carla Casilli, Director of Design and Practice at the Badge Alliance. Following any of these names will link to a network of digital badge advocates and nascent research on digital badges, giving credence to the authenticity and validity of digital open badges and the subsequent research. Making a badge. Reading all the documents created a need to generate a badge and to experience receiving one designed specifically for me. After all, I felt I deserved one. Time and knowledge did not allow me to connect with an open source badge system. Regardless, I quickly developed a badge that represented me and my knowledge of digital badges. The blog badge is interactive with a link to sites that refer to who I am and what I do. This primitive attempt at creating a digital badge effectively provided minimal details in a short time. The reality for me was excitement, shortly followed by confidentiality concerns and questions. How did this differ from Facebook? In the technological society in which we live, our personal information is exposed to many sites, some by choice and some not. Listening to the radio, they tell me that the younger generation take this for granted. However, is this the digital citizenship that we want? In the end, I was excited and planning projects that would be useful in school. Summary. Is it possible to draw a conclusion around motivation and assessment for digital open badges? My conclusion is that there is a lot of motivation driven by industry, which is slowly being supported by academics. Bowen says that the successful implementation of a system-wide badge system requires a shift in academic culture as well as buy-in from students, faculty, and administrators. If digital badges are to be a part of a larger accreditation, there has to be considerable discussion about the criteria and implementation at all levels. A daunting task for the time-limited staff of one school. However, I believe the motivation to find an assessment system in keeping with the 21st century exists, and that the buzz created by digital badges is initiating a much-needed dialogue with reflection toward an educational paradigm shift.